Great. Yeah, absolutely. There'll be no slides today from me. We'll go straight into the product and the demonstration.
Great stuff.
I do want to start with a bit of a shameless plug. We're all very excited to be included in Gartner Magic Quadrant again this year. We've confidently moved up and to the right, so we're now very much leading in that niche space.
Oh, congratulations, that's good.
Thank you very much. It's definitely hard work, but it all pays off.
Good stuff. Well, thank you for that, Imam. And if you're ready, over to you.
Great, thank you very much. So yes, to introduce Freshservice, we are one of the vendors here today, showing you how everything works from an ITSM perspective in our vision, in our product. This is a live demo, so you will be seeing Freshservice as it would be if you were to take a trial out today. The first thing you will be met with as an agent is the agent productivity dashboard. This is a real-time dashboard, and each agent has the ability to customize this dashboard for themselves. But you can also have up to 5 dashboards. So when we really think about analytics, what we really want to understand is the information behind what's going on in the system, and exactly how we can utilize that information and make business decisions off the back of that. So for example, here we have 5 unresolved tickets. So we can quickly click there, and that will take us to the underlying information. We can see we have one with a response due, which I can then quickly click into and take an action on. In terms of that dashboard, as mentioned, each agent could modify this interface. So for example, if I was no longer interested in tickets by group, but I wanted to see tickets by department, very easy to make that change. I can simply change to department and hit save. As a service desk, if I also wanted to mandate and push out a number of different dashboards as well, I can do that. So I would just give this a title. Let's call it L1 support. And then I can make that available to agents in a particular group. And we would just say the incident team. We can then pull in these scorecards. So if I pull in a new scorecard, I can decide the kind of information I'm viewing. Each of these are built by me in the list view page you saw a second ago, and I can set some criticality thresholds. So at what point do I want this to change from black to amber to red? And then once that one's done, you have the ability to pull in things like donuts, and you can then decide the underlying information there. Achievement, so there's an element of gamification, leaderships, SLA metrics, how are we doing on the SLA front, what SLAs am I monitoring? At the moment, these are SLAs against me, but I don't have any tickets. Things like agent availability, what agents have marked themselves as available and unavailable, for what team do I want to see this information for? So it might be the incident team, for example, and then we can hit done, and that would save. And once we're happy with that, we just then need to push that out, and suddenly that becomes available to me under my dashboards as well, and the agents for which that dashboard has been selected. So that's a great way for you to really get that live real-time feedback on the number of tickets in the system, what's going on with those tickets, and so on and so forth. We then have the analytics console. So the analytics console for us is really that rich interface of what's happening in the system from a tickets perspective. And what you'll have with other products is a in-depth training course of 2 days or 3 days. And that's because really the overheads in terms of getting up and running with an analytics console like this is quite large. But what we have really done is introduced bots and a level of AI where you can use free text search in order to pull the information back. So if I said how many tickets have has the incident, you have to forgive me, this is a live demo and this seem to forget how to type. How many incidents closed this year? As soon as you ask that question, our bot Freddy will do its thing, and you can quantify the right information. So it's looking for the metrics under tickets being instance and service requests, and it's looking for tickets closed this year as we stipulated, and it's looking for agent group name contains incident team, and the ticket is in the closed status. So we've got 114 of those. We can then quickly and easily view the underlying information. We can add additional columns if we wish to, and we can add this to a report if relevant. So we have a number of reports that we've built, and some of those are appearing here for us. We can just select Agent Performance View and add that to the report. So that becomes another very easy and quick way for you to pull information. You might be more interested in a particular individual. So you can say, for example, how many tickets has Tim raised this year? And it will give you that information. Now, if I said how many tickets has Tim closed this year, because both agents and requesters can close tickets, it's asking, well, Tim is a name, so are you looking for agents or are you looking for requesters? So we're not, this isn't just a canned demo, this isn't just a free things you can search. The system will genuinely look to learn, and if I said requester, it will then show me the same information. So from that perspective, you can again quantify and qualify it, make sure you're happy with it, and then add that to a report if you want. So that really is, in my eyes, a real game changer. It can really reduce the number of hours you spend on analytics, but also if somebody comes up to you with a question, you can quickly and easily ask that question. Bear with me 1 second. Okay. So moving on from there, we then have a number of curated reports out of the box. And the idea really is those curated reports are things that we think are the most important for you. We have 14 out of the box. And the good news with those curated reports is you have the ability to clone those. So I could clone this report. And at this point, I could then start modifying and changing it to fit my exact use case. If I actually go back to the analytics, and I look at the service desk load analysis report, which I have built. This is a custom report, started life as one of the curated reports. We can then see some of the other metrics you can capture in the system. So here I'm looking at volume trends over time, and simply that time metric is days of the month. So at this point, I have a very clear indication of when we're receiving the most number of service requests, seems to be on the 1st of each month, and on which day do we have the least number of tickets coming through. Now, this being a test system, you'll have some anomalies normally, but you can see that on the 19th and the 20th, we never have tickets being raised. So that gives me a good indication that when I'm manning the service desk, really the 19th and the 20th are just the days that we don't need as much cover on the service desk. Because looking at historical trends over the number of years that we've been using this tool, we've never had a ticket raised on those days. Again, a bit of an anomaly because it's a test system, but that's the kind of information you can pull back. For example, hours of days, which channels are tickets coming through from, what are the most popular categories of ticket, who are the most popular requesters, who is raising the most tickets with us, some stats view. We can look at things like first response based on calendar hours, first response based on business hours. So we can define a working group's business hours and say whether or not the impact to that particular service should be within the calendar hours or business hours, i.e. one team works from 9 to 5. So then at 5 p.m, the SLA clock stops, the response times are no longer counted. We have things like average reopen count. So how many times have tickets been reopened, how many times have tickets been reassigned. We can also have multiple modules side by side. So here we're looking at some change information and even instance caused by changes in the same view as incident and service request information. And then finally, the last page on this report, we have some other information as well. So we can see the service desk started using this tool in July 2017. How have the ticket volumes been kind of coping and going along, and when did we have this spike? And if we actually go down here, we can see the spike happened because we were using an alert monitoring tool for a short period, and that has really caused a spike in tickets coming through, and then that was turned off. So if we actually take alerts out of this, we can see the next most popular channel is phone. And if we take that off, we can then see where any other peaks and troughs are happening as well. So chat and email and so on. Yeah, so you can really on the fly modify that information. And here, this is an interesting one for me as well, hours of the day. So since that July 2017 date, how many tickets have been raised, how many of the tickets have been resolved, where do we have the backlog. So at 4 p.m. We have more tickets being resolved, but actually at 2 p.m. we have more tickets being raised than resolved. So really we would want to man the service desk so that we have a nice smooth bell curve throughout the day. Once you have built these nice dashboards, you have the ability to schedule this report. Now, this is a very graphical report, so it's been mandated as a PDF, but you have the ability to add different versions as well, and we'll see that in a second. So at this point, I can see it's sending an email to myself. If I wanted to mandate anybody else receiving an email, I could add those there. You can then decide the kind of schedule, so it might be a weekly schedule on a Monday, on a Wednesday and a Friday, going out to this email address in this particular time zone as well. You can mandate that now. So the other thing that you can do is filter this information. So if you wanted to filter this information and say, actually, we have X number of teams in the service desk, we only want to see this information for 2 of those teams, we can then say where the agent group name includes. And at that point, we could then say the hardware team, for example, and the instant team. Now, if I press apply, we'll probably see the information change and not much information be returned, but we'll just hit apply, and that will then change all that information. So you can see for those teams, it's a bit more mixed, but you'll see that information for those teams over the life of the service desk, again, if you wanted to report the entirety of the life. If you actually just wanted to say, show me only since, let's say last week, or you might say since the beginning of the year, January 1st, you would then be able to apply that information and mandate for all of those individual widgets as well in the dash. Okay, so that will then do its thing and it'll get back the right information. Okay, so if you wanted to drill down into any one of these, modify them, add a new one, we'll also look at that and how easy that is to do. So if we click here, we can then see we are looking at the total metrics for tickets being defined as instance and service requests. If we wanted to filter this further, we could then say, look at tickets with a certain priority, certain impact, pretty much any ticket field, and then there's some other things as well. So really helpful. You can also say where the, let's say, requester department is, or mobile number is, or address is, or email starts with. So if we just said where the location includes. And again, these locations would be defined based on your own use case. But if we said where the requester location is Europe, and then you could go down further, but we'll just say Europe and press apply. That will then change the information. I can then save that, and it will ask me if I want to reflect that on the dashboard or make that change independent. So there's no data there. If I then wanted to group this by something different, so rather than created by days of the month, I could say by days of the week, by hours of the day, really in-depth information there. You can say where the urgency, for example, group by urgency or group by anything else. And again, there's a lot of information there, source. So if you want to understand the sources that tickets are coming through, all I would need to do is press apply. Now, we are filtering here for the last 3 months, which is something that you can do, or you can just have that running for since the service desk has been created. And that's the filter options. And then we have the ability to change the type of view that we have as well. So we might say, show me by bar chart, and we can see very similar, but the information comes through there. And at this point, we can then export this, but we can also schedule this information to go out, and we then have additional options there because we're not looking at something so graphical. There is a tabular underlying information there for us to export as well. And that information is visible here. If you wanted to add a new widget, a new column, very easy to do. So let's include the subject as well, press apply. And that information will be returned, and then we can slide that up and down as we wish. There we go. and that's available to us. And if we were to export that information and we were to export the tabular data, it would then include that column as well. So really easy to do. If I then go back to the analytics homepage, we also have the ability to export this data. So we looked at briefly curated reports, but we also have the ability to look at all of our schedules, understand what tickets we have scheduled in the system, understand when that's going out. Again, just reducing that noise to make sure the right information is going out. Something which is really powerful as well, and especially as the world moves to standardized offerings like Office 365, you also have the ability to set up data exports. So from a data export perspective, you can define the basic filters. For example, only export the information where it relates to the group's database team and instant team. Alternatively, you might look for certain urgencies or pretty much anything in the system again, even down to things like I only want to export child tickets which are greater than 1. So I might want to start exporting tickets for these teams where the child ticket count is greater than 1. At this point, I can then decide the kind of information I want to export. So you have changes initiating fields or just something as global as ticket fields. So I have some custom fields there, but you have some things like resolve date. So I want to export ID, status, so on and so forth, plus resolve date, plus the source of the ticket, plus any items if it is a service request, plus the total cost. And that's really as easy as it is. At this point, you can then define whether or not it's an API export or an email export. And if it's API, something like Power BI then can really easily and quickly consume those, and it can export that information very quickly in 5 to 10 minutes of the schedule. So really, that's all you need to do to get up and running with our analytics console. If there are any questions right now, really glad to answer those questions. If not, then maybe I could show you some other parts of the system in the last 10 minutes that we have.
Thanks, Iman. Well, we have had one come through actually, and it's thank you. It's a very comprehensive demo so far. That's really great. We're lucky because we've got Ian Cameron in the stream today, in part of the chat, yes. And we've had a question from Venkatraj in relation to scheduling a report. So maybe you could just go over that again, just to show how a report is scheduled, and maybe how that report then is accessible or provided to the consumer of the report, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I will do then is I will simply hit export this report, and you can see the different types of view. I'll just select all, hit export, and that is essentially the same thing as a predefined schedule. It will just export that report. But when you're scheduling something, you can say export this daily on this time zone at this time, weekly, as we previously looked at, and monthly, which I have done for this report. And you can say on the first Monday of, for example, or the first Thursday of, so it doesn't fall on a weekend and therefore end up in the backlog. Once that has all been done, you can then save that, and that will reflect the new export schedule. To manage all of your exports, you also have the schedules. You also have this nice interface, and you can switch those on and off, and you can see the kind of information that's been exported, who the recipient is, and it's telling me that's me. And then you can edit the schedule from there as well. Not delete, but edit. And that quickly gives you the interface. So in terms of how that information then comes out, if I pause sharing, I can go into my email and bring that up for us. Okay, and then I'll just resume the share. Okay, so this is what the report will look like. It gives you a nice cover page. So it's telling me this is the service desk load analysis. It's been exported from Fresh Service, the date that it was exported, and then you get that underlying information. So you can see all of those widgets, but this time it's an email, and it started out as an email, and you can scroll through, and each of those pages, so we had the 3 different pages, are now different pages on the PDF. It won't give me the ability to actually edit on the fly, being a PDF, but if you did have access to the underlying report, you would then be able to edit it from that perspective. Let me just go to the email. and then share my screen again. So just for that final level of clarity as well, this is what it looks like. The message that you input will appear here, and you can customize that input to have something a bit more descriptive, a bit more graphical, addressing the people that the report is going out to as well. Whereas for mine, it's just pretty straightforward. Yeah.
Great stuff, thank you. Hopefully, Venkatraj, that answers your question. And thank you, Ian, for jumping in and answering that in the stream as well. So yes, we've got some time left, obviously. So whether, Iman, you want to show some other capabilities or functions of the tool, brilliant, that'd be superb.
Yeah. Yeah, so something that we're really excited about and something that Ian would not have seen before is our new support portal. So I'll just spend maybe 5 minutes on that as well, just to show you how we're really thinking about support, because it's great to get all that information in, but if everything's coming in from email still and it's a bit of a mixed bag in terms of the kind of information that people are providing, that can be quite a pain point. So this is the new self-service portal. From a self-service portal perspective, everything is mobile optimized, which I will show you in a brief second. Okay. So the idea of everything being mobile optimized is the fact that other tools will tell you, yes, we have an app and people can use the tool on the move. But actually, if you think about people's willingness to install an app just to raise a ticket, there's probably not going to be very high appetite. So we optimize the interface. And if somebody reports an issue, for example, when you look at the subject, email signature not saving, as soon as you click away, the system will actually tell you there's 5 solution articles, and those solution articles are down here. But if you return to a desktop, you will then see the related solution articles on the right-hand side, and those solution articles are then, visually in your eye rather than being squished down to the bottom in case somebody comes from a mobile device. In terms of solution articles or knowledge base articles, we have 2 ways, as you'd all kind of expect. From a modern ITSM system, we have the ability to store the information natively inside Freshservice, embed videos, and show you the kind of level of feedback that you would expect. We also have federated search, and federated search really gives you the ability to start utilizing those Office 365 tools, Azure, and so on and so forth. So if you've moved to a place where you are using Office 365 for your email, chances are Microsoft has a better solution article than any one of us could write, because they are the owners of the tool. So rather than redirecting somebody to an internal solution article, which you have to set up a reminder for every 6 months, copy and paste the latest information, and hope nothing changes in that time, we can actually just redirect somebody to the front end of Microsoft. So what we're doing is sharing the URL, and then that becomes indexed, audited, and returns here in the results. You can get rid of that altogether, that prefix ext altogether as well. I've kept it there because one of the feedbacks we've had is, well, what if somebody goes to Microsoft's front end and tries to raise a ticket with them expecting us to answer? So that gives you that nice interface there as well. Returning to the home page, we have the service catalog here, but what I really like in this new interface is the ability to do a search here. So if I were to search for something like email and then signature here, or just keep it generic and say email, it would then return me any solution article. So anything that would be available to help troubleshoot this particular issue, any items, so any service catalog items, any tickets, also any changes if any were relevant, and down here, if none appear, you can then report that particular issue as well as an incident. So the idea is, when you think about the end user, they're not necessarily going to be understanding of what ITIL is, understanding of what an incident or a service request is. They really want to use the technology that they're used to as a requester, and that's that search bar, introducing the search bar, and then being able to return all of the relevant results to them. There's so much I could show you, but I know these things can often run on as well. So David, we have till 25 past, is that correct?
You're absolutely right. Funnily enough, we've had another question as well, so it might be a timely point actually before we wrap up there. Another question, which is related to integration with Microsoft Teams. So
okay.
Is there a capability to integrate Microsoft Teams sort of as a bot? I mean, that these days, we've seen it. I'm not going to even discuss it. We've seen how that's coming to the forefront of deflection and self-sufficiency and self-support. Does it integrate with Teams, Microsoft Teams?
Yeah, absolutely. And we have a very good solution for that. So we have a service bot built natively in Microsoft Teams, and you can use this from today. Well, a couple of weeks ago it went live, and the idea is you would then front responses inside Teams rather than expecting the user to navigate away and try to get support from within Freshservice. So you can see here the person said, I'm having trouble with VPN setup. It's using NLP to try and understand the intent behind the question, as opposed to just saying, well, we've matched the word VPN, because that would return service solution articles plus service requests. So here it's saying, here's a solution article. If this doesn't help you, then you can raise a ticket. And the next example is then a different question. So how do I submit my expenses? Because this solution article is actually much more condensed, it shows you that solution article. And then finally, we will look at need VPN access. Again, that word VPN is there, but it's actually understanding the intent, and it will return a service request or an incident based on the actual type of question that we have triaged and used that NLP against. So this time it's returning a service request, and at that point you can very quickly and easily place that service request. So yes, we do. So thank you for that question.
It seems
somewhat.
Do you know what surprises me? Well, I'm not surprised. What's really interesting is to see how, developers are looking at the tool systems, ecosystems, and working with COVID-19 to create different outcomes. So hopefully you'll get a chance to join us in the panel where we maybe talk about some of that. What's happening out there. What are the vendors and the tool developers thinking about when they listen to their customers, and what are they doing with their tools? What are they changing the tools? Maybe we'll answer that. Ask that. Iman, that was lovely. Thank you very much indeed. Very comprehensive. Look, thank you for your time. Hopefully you will be joining us in the panel a little later. Yeah?
Of course I will, yes.
Great stuff. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to close that there.